I want to get started with the panel. We have three wonderful people that are going to speak with us today. They're going to come up and tell you a brief story about themselves, and then we open for questions about how they are thriving and surviving. First, I have Jean DeMayo, who is a 3-year survivor of a germinoma. And then Patty Gardner, who is a 35-year survivor of an astrocytoma. And Bruce Blunt, who is an 18-year survivor of a ependymoma. So I'm going to have them take over since my voice is leaving us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Jean DeMayo. As Patty said, I am a 3-year survivor, so I've had the most recent tumor here on the panel. But I'd like to talk you through a few different items, and I'm going to start not with my story, but instead I'm going to start with just a discussion of odds and statistics and survival rates and issues like that, because I think what happens when somebody finds out they're sick, they look at the statistics that they get from their doctors, and they look at the survival rates and the odds, and they tend to think that what they've been told in terms of years, let's say, is locked in stone, or it's absolutely what's going to happen. And let's face it, that's not how odds work, right? Because odds are simply projections, predictions, but they're not specific to a person. Right? They're not specific to who you are, what kind of vigor you have, or what kind of drive you have to survive. They're not specific to the kind of doctors that you've had and the innovations that might be forthcoming in the next few years. They're not specific or knowledgeable about your family and how your family pushes to keep you there. A good example, my wife, when I was sick, said to me, you're looking at those stats like you're going to die, but other people that those statistics applied to, they weren't married to me, and I'm going to help keep you alive. And that meant a lot to me, and that I keep that in the back of my head whenever my struggle becomes difficult, because you know what? That kind of forcefulness and that kind of drive is what you need to survive. So how do I overlay that with my story? Well, first off, talk about odds, right? I think about, and when I think about my own struggles, I think about the 2011 Giants, for any football fans out there, right? The Giants were 7-7, 14 games into the season. They needed to win the last 2 games to survive and make it to the playoffs. They won. They went into the playoffs as severe underdogs, right? And they won. And they ended up in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and they were huge underdogs there, and they also won that game. They survived. Right? They completed their mission. They did what they needed to do to survive. Okay? So my story. When I was diagnosed with my tumor, what happened was I was at a meeting. I work in the securities industry, and I was at a meeting with folks from the FBI, actually. And I was talking to the FBI agent, and he was sort of over here in my periphery. And all of a sudden, the agent sort of split into 2 people. Right? So I said, what the hell was that? And I shook my head, and I was fine. So I went home, I told my wife, I said, something's up, I don't know what happened here. And I attributed it to maybe I was just tired, who knows, right? So the next day I wake up, and I had double vision when I woke up. And I shook my head again, and I was fine. Went about my day. 2 or 3 weeks later, with this happening, when I would shake my head, it wasn't going away. So I went to an eye doctor. So the ophthalmologist says to me, you probably need bifocals. So I said, okay. They tried me with bifocals. Didn't do anything. Tried me with bifocal contacts. Didn't do anything. He said, I'm going to send you for an MRI. I think you might have a brain tumor. So now, of course, that was the last thing I possibly would have expected, right? So, I'd been fine. Cognitively, I felt fine. I was working, no issues. I wasn't, to hear in the last session what the doctor was saying about some of the symptoms. I wasn't vomiting. I wasn't having seizures, nothing like that, right? So I go, I have the MRI. turns out I do have a brain tumor. I came to JFK. The doctors, who were absolutely tremendous at JFK, said to me, look, odds are stacked against you here. It looks like there's a 99% chance that you have a very serious, likely fatal tumor. You probably have a decent chance of survival for short term. You may even be able to be a long-term survivor. The tumor's not big, possibly 2 to 5 years. And they said, but there's a 1% chance it's not that. Okay. I said, thank you very much. They were fantastic. I decided to get a second opinion. I went to a major institution, big hospital in the city. I listened to them. And I should note that the JFK doctors wanted me to get a brain biopsy because they wanted to know for sure whether they were right with their estimates and their odds. They were taking a very smart approach. So I go to this other hospital, and they tell me, you know what, we don't think you should have a brain biopsy because there are a lot of risks there. We think we know for sure what this is. We think it's very, very serious. We think the doctors at JFK are right. You probably don't have a long chance of, or a big chance of survival, but maybe 2 to 5 years, but we're not going to open up your brain. I go back to my doctors at JFK, tell them what happened. They say, look, we've got to have this biopsy. We have to know for sure what's going on. Put my faith in them. Dr. Bloomfield, Dr. Landolfi, they opened up my brain, and sure enough, the 1% chance, the less severe tumor is what I had, okay? Because the odds don't matter. It was not specific to what I had, right? Yeah, there was a better chance that what I had was very serious, given where it was in my brain and given all of the other symptoms and the issues and the odds, but it wasn't what I had in my brain, right? Because I'm an individual, and I'm not just a statistic. So you can't just look at the stats and think, this is what's going to happen. I'm only going to live a year. I'm only going to live 2 years, right? These people up on the panel, 18 years, 35 years, right? They've defied the odds. Hopefully in 32 years or 15 years, I'll be in the same position as them, okay? Now, the other thing to note, and I know there's been a lot of panels on various things like caregivers and things like that, but the support network is huge, right? So my doctors were the best cheerleaders anybody could have. Dr. Landolfi is absolutely a cheerleader, in addition to being one of the best doctors around. Dr. Bloomfield, an incredible surgeon, a caring guy. All right? Dr. Zarni, who did my radiation, same thing. But my family, the support I got from my family, my wife taking me every day to radiation, keeping my kids operating in their normal course, right, without knowing their dad was in such bad shape, just thinking I was a little bit sick. My kids were 6 and 4 at the time, right? So very important to not have them grow up thinking there was a major issue here. And most importantly, my wife was an absolute caregiver 24 hours a day. So here's the thing. You have to remember those people are people too, right? So you're the sick person, you're the patient. But that caregiver, they need to have a life as well. So, and this is something I probably realized a little late, but my wife needed to get out of the house. She needed to go have a drink or go have dinner with her friends occasionally so she could laugh or think about something other than me, right? So as a patient, we have a responsibility also to make sure we take care of our caregiver. Right? I think that's very important to note. So I'm going to try to wrap it up because I want to let these folks speak. But I think it's very important. Focus on a goal. Focus on tomorrow. Focus on your family. Focus on what's important. Do things that are fun for you. Don't just obsess over what might happen because it might not happen. Or it might happen 40 years from now. Or you might get hit by a truck, right? But the fact is that you have to live your life and not obsess about the brain tumor. And lastly, anybody who wants to talk, I'm happy to speak to anybody who's in the predicament I was in or a caregiver or anyone else. Again, my name is Gene DeMeo. My phone number is 732-788-7736. Again, 732-788-7736. That's my cell. I'm available whenever you'd like to speak. I talk to patients over at the JFK Center all the time. I'm happy to do that. Okay, so please let me know if anyone wants to talk. Thank you for hearing me out. All right, I'm now going to turn it over to Patty. She's going to be our second speaker.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patty, and I was diagnosed with an astrocytoma in April of 1978. I was 12, and this is my story. I was in 6th grade when I started having symptoms like nausea and vomiting, severe headaches, vision problems, balance issues. So like any other parent, my parents took me off to the pediatrician, and he diagnosed me with the flu, a very bad cold, this week's virus, that sort of thing. In retrospect, these symptoms that I was having were a brain tumor, but I did not know this, and the doctor obviously did not know this. My symptoms did not improve. In fact, they were getting worse. I found myself back in his office week after week. He expanded his diagnosis to include migraines. He thought maybe I was epileptic. Nobody knew what was going on. My parents took me to several other doctors to try to figure out what was going on. I went to a neurologist, and he took one look in my eyes and said, "This girl's got serious problems. She needs a CAT scan right away." So this was 1978, and CAT scan machines were few and far between, but we did find one, and they gave me a CAT scan, and they realized that I had a brain tumor. It was my parents' worst nightmare. They took me to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in New York City, and I had my astrocytoma tennis ball sized removed from my cerebellum and brainstem the very next morning. I really didn't have any time to process what was going on with me because it was literally 12 hours between my diagnosis and my surgery. And at that point, my life had changed forever. My tumor was benign, but as we all know, benign does not mean harmless. My recovery was slow and very difficult at times. I had a lot of side effects resulting from my surgery. I have a permanent tremor in my right side of my body, tremor and weakness. It gets worse when I get upset or when I get nervous, like now. I had double vision after my surgery. The tumor was in a location where it pressed on my optic nerve, and the removal of the tumor caused my nerves to go haywire, and I had double vision resulting from that. That has been surgically corrected since then. I will have lifelong balance problems, but I consider myself to be extremely lucky regardless. You have all heard the saying, you cannot often change what happens to you, but you can change your reaction to it. I was blindsided by the circumstances. There was no way that I thought that I had a tumor or that anyone in my family thought that I had a tumor. My family was healthy. I had been healthy up until that point. But I was blindsided by the circumstances, but instead of rolling over and succumbing to it, I fought. I really had no other option. I was in the hospital for only 2 weeks, but my recovery took much, much longer than that. I was fortunate enough not to need radiation treatment after surgery. I underwent years of physical and occupational therapy. I had obstacles to overcome, but I attacked each problem with fierce determination. Though I was very young, there was something deep inside of me, an inner strength that was awoken that I never even knew I had. I fought very hard to get back to normal. In the end, I had to redefine what normal meant. My normal is not anyone else's normal, and I'm fine with that. What is normal anyway? I had to compensate for my physical limitations, and I think I do a pretty good job. There are things that I had to relearn after my surgery, simple things that we take for granted, like walking. I had to retrain myself to learn to write with my left hand. I was right-handed up until the point of my surgery. I learned how to drive a car despite the weakness and shaking of my right foot. I even learned how to ride a bicycle again. I don't do it regularly, but I wanted to prove to myself that I actually could do it, and I did do it. I learned how to type on a keyboard using just my left hand. At this point in my life, I feel like I can do most of the things that everybody else can do, but I may do them differently. And it may take a little more effort, but I consider that to be a triumph. This astrocytoma of mine did not get the best of me. It did not win. I won. Here I am, a survivor of 35 years, and I feel like I have lived a successful life so far. I graduated from college. I taught kindergarten at one point. I currently hold a job as an office manager, and I've been with that company for 15 years. I married a wonderful man who is my soulmate. I have 2 fantastic children who I adore, and I still have so much more living yet to do. I feel like I'm a survivor in every sense of the word. It has been 35 years since my diagnosis, and I'm still going strong. If I had one message to pass along to fellow brain tumor survivors, it would be, don't lose hope. You need to find inspiration in stories like mine. You need to find that inner strength within you and fight. You need to find strength from within. You need to believe in yourself, be patient and accepting, and allow family and friends to support you, and you will triumph. I am living proof.
Hello. Oh, okay. My name is Bruce, and I'm supposed to tell you my story. It's like everybody else's story. It's just there was something bad there, and they took it out. And 18 years later, I'm here. So that's basically my story. I was in the military, and they sent me to Bethesda Hospital, which is, I guess, a premier military hospital. It's where they send members of Congress and the president should they fall ill. And so that was a good thing, except I'm pretty sure if a member of Congress or the president had fallen ill, they would have wheeled me in the hallway. So whatever they did, they did a good job. I was in the hospital for 3 months, which sounds kind of severe, but it's different when you're in the military. I was there that long because they had the bed space, and it was their dime, so they just kept me there. But I went through occupational therapy, speech therapy, and all that stuff. One of the things that has helped me survive 18 years is my faith in God. I'm not going to be a Bible thumper, but it worked for me. That's all I got to say. It's real important to find a medical team that knows what they're doing. But what can you do? Really, the only thing that you can do is have a positive attitude. I'm not sure if having a positive attitude will make you live longer, but I know it'll make you live happier. One of the sayings I like to say is, everybody in this room only has seconds left to live. It may be 1 billion seconds, but you better not waste not even one of them. In your goodie bags, you're going to find a CD from David Bailey. Dr. Brown, I know you remember David. He was a person that unfortunately was stricken with a GBM, but he knew how to live, and He picked up his guitar. He made, what, 14, 18 something CDs. Listened to his music and listened to his words. I'm a big hero of his. He's a hero of mine, I should say. The only other thing I wanted to say is, if anybody wants to contact me for any reason, I'm not medically trained. I don't have the secret cure for living a long time. But I did go to Vistaprint and get 200 cards for free. So if anybody wants, look me up and I got a card I can give you. And that's all I got.
All right, so I'm back, and we're going to try to take some questions from all of you, if you have any. Because otherwise I'm going to have to start with some questions. All right, I'll get the ball rolling. How about that? We'll do that. Patty, before we talked a little bit about this, oh, there is a question. Yes.
I thought this was a wonderful story that you told, and congratulations.
Thank you.
My question is, you mentioned that your wife was your caregiver during this period. Did she have any problems taking a leave of absence from work? Did she get family medical leave? Because some companies afford that and some companies don't. So I was just curious about that.
Okay, I'm going to repeat the question just in case people didn't hear. The question was, my wife was my primary caregiver, and the question was whether or not she was able to get Family Medical Leave Act protection, or if she was able to get specific time off from work because of my situation. Is that right? Is that your question? Well, actually, my wife was not employed at a company. She was doing consulting work. She does consulting work for nonprofits, so she was just able to adjust her schedule. But it's interesting because when we first had our kids, I was initially reluctant for my wife to go back and start doing consulting work because she was in the city quite a bit, and I was worried about the kids and what if somebody gets sick, how are one of us going to get home? I work in the city as well. And then when I became ill, it became very obvious to me how important it was that she was still able to be in the workforce and earn some money in the event that I wasn't able to work. What would we have done, right? So the fact that she was working, making a good income, actually was extremely helpful to my state of mind, to give me some peace. I know this isn't really an answer to your question at all, but in my situation, that was something that helped us immensely, the fact that she was still employed. Ultimately, I was able to continue working, even while I was getting my treatment, because I underwent 7 weeks of radiation and gamma knife surgery, which was difficult, but not devastating. So I was still able to hobble my way to work and be able to act like I knew what was going on. In reality, my staff was running everything because I didn't know what the hell was going on. But I was there, and it was also very good for my state of mind because I was with the staff, out of my bed, not on my couch, and able to feel like I was contributing to some degree.
Jean?
Yes. Oh, there you are. Hi.
You have a wonderful attitude, I find, and you were very fortunate to be able to continue to work, which unfortunately I had to stop the day I was diagnosed. But I will tell you, I have one issue. I never saw myself as sick, and you keep referring to yourself as when I got sick. I don't know how many people in the room feel that they are sick. That helped me, I think, handle it and recover and manage to get through it and get rid of it. I never saw myself as sick. I had a brain tumor, and maybe that's something that somebody else here might benefit from. If you see yourself as sick, you will be sick. If you see yourself as living, you will live, I think. I mean, of course, there are odds. I don't even talk about odds. You said, when you hear about brain tumors, you hear about how long you're supposed to live. I never asked. I didn't even know what number I had, what grade it was. I just learned, something. I learned a while ago, supposedly grade 3, whatever that meant. But after it was gone, I learned that. I think that attitude has a lot to do with it. You have a very good attitude, and I find it odd that you thought of yourself as sick. I don't know, I know Bruce a long time. I know a lot of people through our group a long time, and I don't feel that we see ourselves as having been sick.
Well, you know, that's probably a benefit that I could derive from you folks then, because I did tend to look at myself like I was sick. And I felt horrible. I had a positive attitude, you're right. But I had trouble getting off the couch. Like I said, it was a big effort for me to actually get in and go to work. I did it because I needed to do it, and I was a strong person. But my God, I felt just absolutely horrendous.
So lousy.
And it was the first time in my life that I had ever encountered anything where I was ill at all, right? I had no issues. I was never on medicine. I had no high blood pressure. You know, I was in my late 30s, and I was healthy, other than I could lose about 20 pounds. Otherwise, I was fine. And, so I did feel like I was sick. I like what you said. I'm going to take that attitude with me. And like I said, there's a lot I can learn from all of you folks, and I think I learned a big lesson today as well.
The first year for me was like hell. I went through everything. I had all kinds of treatments. I always say, you name it, I had it. I did it. They did it for, but I just took it day by day. I had the radiation, I had chemo, I had oral chemo, I had IV chemo, I had a couple of surgeries, I had gamma knife here. You name it, I had it. But I just took it as this has to be done. Maybe denial helped a lot. But I never had that image of me being ill.
Well, denial is not the worst thing in the world at times.
No, helps me.
It really can be a very good thing, because you want to be able to see a future for yourself. You don't want, like you said, you don't want to look at yourself like you're sick or gravely sick at all. And so attitude is everything. And if it's a function of choice of words at times, you know what? Again, I think that's something I've learned today from you. Thank you.
Your name? Sorry.
My name is Gene.
Oh, Jean. Thank you for sharing the wonderful story and your positive attitude. But may I add one thing? It should be you find the right medical team to treat your condition, and you need as a brain tumor patient, you need to keep up the technology, educate yourself, and you need to know what's going on, what is the new technology, and what is the new drug put on the market.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That the point was that you have to keep up with the times medically. You have to know what medicines are out there, what treatments are out there, and what you're being treated with, for sure. And I'll tell you, that was something, and I'm going to sound like an advertisement for JFK, but that was something that the doctors over there are great at, is letting you know exactly what's happening at every step, exactly how you can be treated. Like when I had the gamma knife, my tumor was in my thalamus, so it's highly unusual, at least as far as I understand. Patty, you can nod if I'm right. It's highly unusual that gamma knife is a treatment used for a malignant tumor in the thalamus, as far as I understand it. And it was explained to me that this was something that would benefit me for a number of different reasons, and why it was the preference of Dr. Landolfi and Dr. Bloomfield and Dr. Zarni. So I heard the arguments, pro and con, and agreed that this was the right course of treatment for me. I don't know if others want to weigh in here.
I want to point out one thing, that it is vitally important to keep up the education. Coming to these conferences is, I think, the best way, because you're going to hear the doctors speak on the newest and latest methods. You get the education, and knowledge is power, and keeping a positive attitude. That's the secret.
Yeah, absolutely.
I won't turn it off.
Other questions or comments?
I believe that it was you that said it, that we need to take it day by day, and then who knows, instead of worried about our brain tumor and if that's going to take us, that's going to kill us. And you might have said, well, we can get hit by a car or whatever. It might have been Bruce that said it. And I've been 13 years of dealing with this, and I always have everybody laughing because I figure the brain tumor is not going to kill me. It's probably going to be me getting a hoagie in Wawa parking lot or something like that. And I always keep looking at things that way because I am not going to keep thinking of this brain tumor killing me. And I've got that, you have to keep thinking of it that way because there's people that do get killed, some other way, and they didn't think about it from the day they got up in that morning. And nobody knows. We just keep enjoying day by day.
For sure. That's a great attitude as well. In 13 years, congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments?
I'm getting my exercise today.
I commend you for your attitudes. I believe you're sitting there because of your attitudes. All these years, I truly believe that mind over matter. Again, if you feel you're sick, you'll be sick. 25 years, I did not look at, oh my, I had 2 small children, and this past year, I had 2 grandchildren.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So, I also, it's a silly thing. Humor is such an important part of your illness. Just, I remember saying to my best friend, giving him license to allow brain tumor jokes, which are unfortunately, but there's a lot of brain tumor jokes. Just, it's the attitude. It's mind over matter. It's kind of silly. But I believe truly you are commendable because of your attitude.
We thank you for that comment. I also want to point out the humor I think is extremely important as well. It also gives me great fodder at work. So often when I forget something or somebody has made a comment to me and I just can't process it because I'm getting old, not because it has anything to do with the brain tumor, I simply say, pick on the guy with the brain tumor, why don't you? Real nice. Yes.
I have 2 comments. One is
Be nice.
one is about keeping up with the information and support. And I found that being a part of a support group, the Central New Jersey Brain Tumor Support Group, has been an amazing resource. If you have any questions, you email Stan or Patty, and they send it out to the group, and then you have answers amazingly quick. Like right now, I'm facing another surgery, and I was like, all right, well, who do you recommend for a neurosurgeon? And I think within 24 hours, I had gotten like 15 recommendations.
Wow.
So, and that's really, helpful, like as far as keeping up with the new medications and that kind of thing. And also humor. When I was first diagnosed, my brother and I always had the joke, like kindergarten cop, it's a tumor. And when I got back from the doctor, I'm like, no, that's what it is. It's a brain tumor. So, and it's just, you have to keep the humor and a positive attitude, and you just do what you got to do.
Yeah, that's also a great point. I'll tell you what I find interesting also is that I'm definitely a better person now than I was before the tumor. I think I have a lot more patience, a lot more understanding. I think just even, that's obvious, I guess, with my family, but I think I was always a pretty good dad and husband, at least I hope I was. But at work with my staff, I think I'm a lot more considerate about life issues that they may have. And I try to take the time, first of all, to hear what their issues are, to process it, evaluate, let people take extended leaves when they need to. And I work at a pretty big company, but you know, I can talk through with HR and sit there and say, hey, you know, we need to cut this guy a break, or we need to cut this woman a break. And so I think it's made a difference in how I manage my staff as well as how I live my everyday life with my family. Yeah, that's right. Very good point. Well, I don't know, Patty or Bruce, if you have any additional comments before we wrap up? Anything? That's great. Well, I'll tell you, I think there's a lot of you out there who would be great on a panel like this. You've had some comments and stories that are an inspiration to me. So thank you all, and thanks for hearing us out. Patty, thanks for having us.